What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about late game in Zero Build for Chapter 4 Season 2. I make one of these videos about every season or so, but late game changed a lot this season with how Epic changed the zones, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and let's just get right into it. The first thing I think that is a big deal in late game in Fortnite and pretty much any BR, and it always has been, but it's a bigger deal this season, is just having loot that you think is good enough to win the game, or like the tools that you need to win the game. So like the katana would be a good example of that. Some players might just loot one little spot, and then from that point forward they're just hiding to try to make it in game. But if you don't have like the tools you need to win the game, like mobility, heals, you know, a variety of weapons to fill the roles that you want to fill, it's going to be hard for you to win the game. And this season takes it a step further because the mythic weapons are really insane. The mythic Havoc Pump Shotgun, the mythic Pulse Rifle, and the legendary Slurp Juice are all like incredibly top tier items, and just having these in your inventory I feel like increases your chances of winning exponentially. So I would highly recommend going for the vaults, and then also going for the island when it spawns. Another benefit of capturing the island is not only do you get the Pulse Rifle and you get a refresh on Slurps, but oftentimes the better or more confident players in the lobby are probably going to contest you on the island. So once you clear the island, a lot of the more like confident fighters are out of the lobby and you won't have to deal with them later on. This I've seen kind of be a divisive topic because people will be like, I don't want to fight the other good players, I might lose the game. And sure, that's true. If you are, you know, a 4 out of 10 player and you fight a 6 out of 10 player on the island, you're probably going to lose that fight, but odds are you are probably going to lose to them anyways, I think. So just getting those people out of the lobby when you can, I think makes it easier to play the game personally. Also, in-game this season is just super slow. Typically, like after the island, games only have about 10 players or so in solos. And I think at that point forward, I kind of just play not to get sniped or not to get like engaged on by surprise. When you have like a huge zone and very few players remaining, just running around and looking for them really doesn't even increase your chances of like necessarily finding anybody, because you have so many places to look. And when you have so many places to look, I feel like odds are you're more likely to get caught off guard by somebody hiding. So I kind of just play to not lose the game from this point forward. That sounds really bad, and in a lot of games just playing to not lose usually doesn't work, but I feel like for how in-game plays this season, like once island goes, like you just have to basically wait until zone is small enough for the game to finally end. That's one of the ways that like the zone changes really change things up, because it used to be you would get into half and half, I think in like 4th or 5th zone, where half the zone would just be out, and then you would have to go to like a very small zone. And this would basically force the games to end in Zero Build at this point. But you don't have that anymore, and the zones just get smaller and smaller and smaller until the point when they just start moving. So you don't have half and half to like cut down half the lobby or like force the game to basically end at that point. So you get a lot of like slow, like drawn out, stagnant games. And I feel like at that point, you know, if you're a decent fighter and you have good loot and you have like your katana, you have the mythics, I feel like at that point in time, all you have to really do is just not get caught off guard by somebody. And typically what this will do, the easiest way to kind of make this happen, I feel like, is just to chill on edge of zone. Unless there's like a very good power position, like a castle, like one house that is like the only house in zone, or maybe just like natural high ground with a cliff or something. You can try to control those if they're in zone, especially if it's like a very specific zone, like Citadel, for example. I'll usually go and try to control the castle if that's in zone. But when you do control these power positions, you just have to keep in mind that everybody else is going to want to eliminate you. So you have to play just not to expose too much, or not like overextend or overinvest too much into just one single fight. That's kind of like what I was saying before about like playing to not lose, you know? It sounds bad, but like as long as you don't overcommit or overinvest or lose too much in one single fight, usually you're going to be able to win the game. I feel like a lot of the players at this point in time, if you've, you know, been getting kills and you've cleared the island, they're just playing to like either third party you or catch you off guard. So as long as you don't like expose yourself to those one or two things, you'll be fine. Like if you see people fighting and you want to third party it, that's fine. But I feel like you shouldn't just be like aimlessly roaming the map at like end game looking for fights. I'll kind of do this mid game, but once it gets to end game, I feel like people just play differently, and you have a lot more players just like playing to get that like surprise tag on you, or playing to get that third party situation. And as long as you don't overexpose yourself to them or get caught off guard by them, you're probably going to win the game from what I've experienced. I'll have this clip here. This is a video I've used already before. I've used this gameplay in the background of a video, but I think this is a good example of something, so I'm going to reuse it. It's a 1v1v1 in this situation, and I get one player weak, but instead of tunnel visioning in on them, I just get tags on the third party because this guy runs up thinking he's going to third party us. I get tags on him, and now at this point in time, I have both players weak. The first player is somewhere trying to heal, and then the second player is also trying to get away from me. So I can go and fight that first player I had weak without worrying too much about getting third party. You know, like we dealt with the pressure and made them both weak, and now we just basically have pickings of the rest of the lobby, and we're able to easily like clean up this game and win right here without really taking too much damage or being in too bad of a spot. But had I tunnel visioned in on that kill and just only focused on the player I had weak, we likely would have gotten third partied, and maybe I still win it, but it would have been a lot closer, I think, had I not been like kind of calm in that situation and not like chase that kill, or if I did chase that kill, it would have been much harder. The biggest thing I think for endgame, and this is going to be like with any point in the game, and if you've watched my videos, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this like countless times, but I think just being confident and being comfortable fighting is the most important skill to have. Like a lot of players that are new, they just want to make it in game, so they hide a bunch and they don't really fight. And I think this is super natural, but what's also very natural is a lot of these players get very nervous in game because, you know, they're not used to it. They're not experienced with it. So they just get on, they want to get that win. And once they're 20 minutes deep into a match, their heart is racing, and it makes it very hard for them to win fights because they're already not confident fighting. You know, a lot of players get nervous fighting and they get nervous in game. So when you're like double nervous like that, it's just very unlikely that you come out on top unless the opponent makes like a huge error. So I think getting good at fighting is like kind of the baseline to winning consistently. If you want to get on and like camp or hide for wins and, you know, occasionally win, and that's how you like playing, that's fine. But if you want to like consistently win games and be able to just, you know, get on and win whenever you want, I think being comfortable fighting and being just decent at fighting in this game is a very important skill to have. And then like the nervousness end game, I think just comes with experience. Being confident fighting is like a big deal, I think. Like once you're decent at fighting and you're used to winning fights, I think that a lot of that in-game nervousness goes away. But just in general, it'll probably go away the more you play the game and the more you win and the more confident you are fighting. Creative is also a great tool for being able to just get into a lot of fights in a very short time span. With BR, you know, you have like loading into the lobby, you have to land and loot up, then you have to look for people. In creative, you could just like rinse and repeat a bunch of fights without much of a penalty for dying at all. You just get right back in there again, and it makes you get in reps so much faster. So that's what I would recommend. Get what you need to win the game, become confident at fighting, and then once you clear the island, just play to not get caught off guard, because a lot of the players that are remaining after the island has been cleared aren't going to be the most confident fighters from what I've played. Some other minor tips that could be helpful in game are to just keep track of the players you see and how many unknowns you have. So like if it's 4 players and you and a solo, so 5 total people, and you've seen 2 people, but you don't know where the other 2 are, try to keep in mind where the other 2 people you saw were, where you haven't seen people, and what zone is like. Because if you've seen 2 people on the left and you haven't seen anybody on the right, odds are there probably is somebody on the right still. And just through process of elimination of like where you've seen people and where you've been, you can kind of predict where other players are going to be. Like obviously, if it's a 1v1v1 and you know where both players are, you're going to be able to play that differently than if it's, you know, 5 players remaining and you've only seen 2, if that makes any sense. But yeah, just keep track of what players you've seen, what skins they are, can be really helpful at like tracking them. And then just in general, where you haven't seen people, because even if you haven't seen people in a certain area, that doesn't mean it is completely clear unless you came from there personally and you know for sure it's clear. Once you're in endgame, or this is pretty much at any point in the game, but don't stop moving. Unless you're in like a bush or some weird hiding spot where no one has angles on you, you want to constantly be moving, whether this is like moving back and forth side to side, randomly jumping, randomly crouching. Anybody who's played Fortnite for a long time, you'll just see them randomly jumping all the time, and that's to avoid getting sniped. And this is just like a habit that so many players have picked up after playing for several years in the game, and you can kind of just look at somebody's gameplay and immediately tell if they've been playing for a long time, because like the people who have been playing for a long time, if they're ever out in the open for long periods of time, they'll just be randomly jumping for no reason to hopefully throw off someone's snipe. Like obviously you might get unlucky and you jump into where their bullet was going to be, but The things within your control are to, you can jump, you can strafe around, you can crouch randomly. Just all of these things make you a more unpredictable target for somebody sniping. And that can be a huge difference maker, especially this season, because the heavy sniper is really prevalent. Also, there's a lot of people camping in trees this season. So if you are in situations where you aren't able to find people, never write those trees off, because there's been a lot of people just sitting in trees. And in general, one thing that can help at any point in the game is just being aware of what angles you're exposed to. And that's why I was saying being edge of zone can be really beneficial, because if you're edge of zone end game and you like a decent amount of time has passed where like storm is closed, like it's unlikely there's going to be anybody back there, so you don't have to worry about that angle as much. Whereas like if you're center zone, you have to worry about all 360 degrees. And there are times where you might want to be center zone if there is like a castle or a power position there, like I was saying. But even then you have to play that, more reserved and more careful, because by putting yourself center zone, you have more risk on you. So just being aware of what angles you're exposed to at all times, I think can definitely increase your awareness and decrease your chances of getting caught off guard. And like I talked about before and many times in this video, it seems like a lot of players in game are just playing to catch the enemy off guard. And as long as you don't give that to them, it's very hard for them to beat you in game. But that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys found this helpful or informative. If you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.